Hey all. Um, Welcome back. Hope everybody's well. Hope you're all doing fine. You're eating a good breakfast and having a lovely lunch. And for dinner, take what you eat and eat what you take. That's what they always taught me. So anyway, this video is exclusively, more or less exclusively, about the final. And it's not really a final. It's just your last essay. So don't worry about final, whatever that means. As far as I know, there's no final exam for this class. Not as far as I know. There is no final exam. What would I test you on anyway? But I do have an idea for the last essay. So I wrote out some notes. Let me just get it out there so you have it from me on the video. You can go back and play it again to make sure it's as clear as can be. Now, there's wiggle room here. If you wanted to write about something else. Now, since the last essay, let me just get this out of the way. Since the last essay was submitted, we've really only, because of this pandemic, we've really only had the ability to cover some musical issues. And as you already saw in the other video, it's a big area to discuss, and it has to do with the ways that we are using the technology. That is to say, again, I'm repeating something I said in another video, so please go back and look at it because it was in more depth. We listen differently than we do then. That is, physically, we carry our music around with us. The little wireless buds and things like that, on our phones, on our laptops, on our iPads. We don't have to own things. All of these things, and we also watch television and movies the same way. We don't have to own them. We can stream them. Just the whole idea of streaming. What the hell does that even mean? And the notion of ownership. Again, as I mentioned, I think I told you that story in the other video where I was, my son said, "Pop, you got to get over this idea of owning music. You don't own it. You just go get it. I'll take it from there. Wait, there it is. You can play it again and again." So there's that. Okay, there's that whole idea of what can you say specifically about your particular pop cultural demographic that is sort of uniquely, your own or something like that. And of course, we pick songs too. What song do you think, or songs, or maybe a type of music you think represents this culture? That is, when they look back on this in 50 years, here are some songs that are really like, okay, you want to know about the 2015 to 20, whatever. This song really does it, the way other songs in other generations and decades did too. So those kinds of topics are available to you. But here's what I was thinking, and I thought, one of the things to do here is to just remember that we're all involved in this. So let me just sort of read and ad-lib my idea here. So here it comes. Here's the way my mind was working about this next topic. I think it's a really good topic, and it's something that I'm trying to do with all my classes, not just Hofstra and its WSC 1 and 2 classes. I'm trying with all my students in varying levels. My niece is actually getting involved. She's sending me things about this. But anyway, so here it is. Are you paying attention? You have to be paying attention. You in the back. Critical thought takes reflection. And reflection requires perspective of some kind. All of us are dealing with this pandemic. Now, first of all, just to play around with words, we all deal, quote unquote, deal with culture as much as we contribute to creating it. We also have to deal with it, whatever condition it's in. And at this particular moment in time, we are all dealing, again, that word in quotes, is dealing with this pandemic. All of us are. Sorry, there's nobody who's not. More specifically, uh, this thing that I'm sort of referring to is being quarantined, sequestered, this whole notion of dense social distancing and all that stuff. That's the specifics of it. Even now, I mean, well, look at us all. I mean, I'm in my office, in my house. We don't leave that much. You're doing the same thing. Very few of us actually go out anywhere. Where are they? But we have to specify. We're not talking about me here. And while you and I may coexist on this planet, in this country, in this state, and just personally, socially, aesthetically, politically, we are of different minds, clearly, different temperaments, clearly, and certainly different predispositions. We just have to be. I'm decades older than you. I lived in a different period of time before you were born. So we overlap here, but we're not the same. And so we're coming back to the pop culture. That's you, all right? I was already in my pop culture. You are different, and let's get more specific, okay? You, and I'm talking to you guys, my students, who are involved, who are of a certain age. You're in that group from 16 to 21, or something along those lines. All you guys are 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. So you are particularly and distinctly different from your parents and your grandparents. Also distinctly different from your older siblings and younger siblings, who I'm sure, depending on how far away you are in age, are considerably different than you and have a different temperament and of a different mind as well. Look at them. Look at how they dress, what music they listen to, what they watch on television, on their phones, what they don't watch. So again, you are, not to make too fine a point of it, but you are as unique as you can be at this point as a group. And that's what we're trying to look at. We're looking at that. Now, again, this is not an exact science, so let's just be reasonable. So it's that difference that gives you that unique perspective I was talking about at the beginning of this. Critical thought takes reflection, and reflection takes perspective. So you have a particular perspective, a particular point of view, a particular aesthetic, if you will, about all of this. This sequestering, this distancing, this quarantining affects you as a group differently than it does all of the other groups. And yet we're all in this together, they say. My question is, how do we talk about this? And this is where theory comes in, because we don't know. So I'm asking you, because you're a bunch of smart kids, how has this, or how is this affecting you as a member of this generation? And what do you see as the long range effect of this generation? Will this pandemic affect how we view your generation? Or will it go away in a year, it'll be a blip on the screen and nothing will have changed? I mean, you can certainly, if that's what you feel, and this assignment is not for you, but if you think it's going to have some impact, that's what we want to hear about. Remember, as personally particular as this can get, some of you are going to go right to, I'm stuck in my room, like me, I'm stuck in my room. This is really important, you are a symbol of your generation. So when you write this paper from whatever particular point of view and perspective you have, you are representative of the generation. So it's not all about you. And yet it's all about you, the bigger you, the larger group of you, of which you are a part. So it's easy to fall into the pitfall here of overgeneralizing. And again, I caution those of you who have overgeneralized before, stay away from that. You're talking about a particular group here. Overgeneralizing is fine sometimes. When we're talking about the whole planet and all of us, every age. But what we're trying to do is, again, using you as the voice and taking stock of what you know as a member of your generation. I'm asking you to make it so it's not so absolutely personalized. For instance, you can't say, these goddamn masks. Masks are only masks. It's the concept of wearing a mask. That's what you want to talk about, maybe, or something like that. It has to be. You want to embrace the broader idea. Here's what it means to be living as a 19-year-old during a pandemic, not a 25-year-old, a 35, a 50-year-old, an 80-year-old, or a 5-year-old. So you want to embrace that broader idea without becoming overgeneralized. If you list a bunch of specifics, like there's 6 feet apart, and I got to wear a mask, and my so-and-so's wearing gloves, and this. These are just the particulars. Again, those observations that we make that you need to draw a conclusion from. So it's not enough to just list the things that you observe. There's one thing I've been saying all semester long is you need to draw conclusions from what you are observing. Intellectually, visually, sonically, whatever it is, conclusions have to be made from these things, not just a list of what you hear and see and all that stuff. So that's it. That's what I think you should do your last paper on. I would rush to do that paper. I think it's an interesting one. I think it's uniquely your own perspective in some ways. It really challenges you to think about this pandemic and your part in it as a member of this group in some sort of wildly broad philosophical way. I think it can be very reflective and helpful, actually. I think you can learn something from this. So I'm mentioning it now, I'm getting the video out today. Think about it. So that's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to do that. Now, the other thing to do, as I already mentioned, if you want to choose from, there are only like 3 choices here. There's the one I just said. There's the one I said before this about how we listen to music, the songs that reflect the time, and social media, like for instance TVs and movies that have all changed, and how we experience them. So that's one big unit. The third thing you can think about as an area of topics is the TED Talk thing that I gave you the link for. It just simply asks the question: is pop culture dead? Are we even foolish to even consider it? So watch that, and certainly you want to just take a position, either supporting or disputing what this guy has to say. That's also an option. So those are your 3 areas of focus for your essays. The essay, I'm going to stick to the schedule that we have. There is no final exam, so this essay will be due on the 6th of May, as always. Prior to that, though, if you look at the syllabus, we'll get somewhere between now and then. We'll have you do some intros for the discussion board. I'll get that up there now. Start looking at that. So you have time to do this. You don't have to rush. I mean, I'm giving you plenty of time to get this thing going, and I'm limiting the topics. So, if obviously you have any questions or anything to clarify, please email me. You know how to get a hold of me. I'm going to put this video up right now. I'm going to put the discussion board thing about intros up there. Look at the TED Talk thing. There will be another correspondence from me, probably via email, about the proficiency exam. Although the English department and the writing department should be sending out their own alerts to you about this, but I'll stay on top of it as well. So that's a separate thing at a particular chosen time, apparently. So, as I mentioned in another video. That's it, everybody. Okay. So stay well, peace, enjoy yourself.